Back in April of 2022, I released a video going into some POE in-game lore, and it had been a long time, so recently I started posting a variety of quizzes for fun, just to look into some lore background in Path of Exile. I want to go over the 15 quizzes I posted. I realized a lot of you have contributed, but none of you could see the results, the spread, so let's see how you guys did. Here was my first question. According to POE lore, who developed the system of directly implanting gems into the human body for use? Now, one thing I omitted was the answer of Doriani, who had experimented with this back in the Val days. I omitted it because of the ambiguity. To my knowledge, Doriani never succeeded. However, the person who did succeed was actually Malagaro. Now, I can see why a lot of you chose Malachi, because Malachi created the gemlings and implanted gems into the gemlings, into modified humans. However, Malagaro came first, of course. Malachi reanimated Malagaro as a gemling. So Malagaro was the one who developed the system, which is why that is the answer. And in fact, as we go through story mode, Malagaro's spike was what he used in an attempt to extract the essence of virtue gems to directly inject into people. He did not succeed in this. However, he was the one to develop the system. Now, my next question was, according to POE lore, who founded the Eternal Empire and the city of Sarn on top of the original fallen Val capital? Place your bets now. This one, you guys didn't quite get right. Most of you chose Izaro, of course, who's very famous in the lab, who was an emperor, but he came much later. Varuso, Tarkus Varuso, was the one who founded it, and he was an Izmiri. Izmiris are kind of equivalent to the Greeks, if you think of the Eternal Empire as equivalent to the Romans. So this was ancient times, came in. Alano Frisia started the Frisius lineage, which held up power for many years, ending with Izaro, who had no heir. And that's when he created the lab. The person who succeeded was Chitus Parandus, who got through lab first. However, he did this a little bit cheating. He had advantages. He had map layouts and everything from Kadiro, his uncle Kadiro Parandus, who we are familiar with. If you've played the game the last few leagues, they removed Kadiro Parandus, but he used to be a big part of the game. He does pop up every now and then. Of course, Varuso's battering rams are named after Tarkus Varuso. Now, the next question I posted was, according to POE lore, who is the father of Ambrosia, daughter of Mervil? This is the monster who attacks us when we open the treasure chest in Act 1. And you guys got this right, Doriso. Mervil does call out for Doriso a bit as we progress through the caverns. So if you paid attention, you would see that it was Doriso. And here's some past lore on it. The Star of Rayclast, she wore daily around her neck, which was a gift from Doriso. It cursed her with its thaumatological powers. He abandoned her as her madness grew, sailing away. Some people in the comments noted that he was actually looking for a cure. This might be true. I'm not sure, to be honest. Of course, we do fight Doriso later. Doriso. Keep saying Doriso. We fight him later in the Grand Arena. That is Doriso. Now, according to POE lore, which endgame boss was never a human at one point? Was it Ziri, Cyrus, the Elder, or Oshabi? The answer, of course, is the Elder. You guys got this right. He's referred to as a Shade by Valdo, who later becomes the Shaper. He was born of the Atlas, which is an alternate world in the lore. We'll get into that more shortly. He's not ever believed to have been human. Everyone else here at Ziri, as well as, of course, Cyrus, who's supposed to be a past POE character, a past class. And Oshabi also has her backstory. She was Izmiri. Now, I have another video going over in-game models. I posted this quite a while back. It's a fun one. I love this video. I had a lot of fun making it. Here's what the Elder model literally looks like, and he does have eyes. The Elder does have eyes, in case you're wondering. Now, the next question I posted was kind of just for fun. Who is a beast of burden? Is it Gruthgal, Argus, the Minotaur, or the Templar? The only beast in the list formally is Argus. Argus is a modified beast by Izaro and his pet, who holds the treasure key. And the Minotaur, of course, was a man, one of the 4 prison guards sent by Venerius to imprison Valdo, which was his past servant. And he was later recruited by the Shaper as a guardian of the Voids. The Minotaur is just a human in armor. And the Templar, you guys should have known, of course, consistently reminds us that he is no beast of burden. So 17% of you, shame on you. This is official artwork. of Argus. When we fight Argus, it's hard to really tell what he looks like. This is what he looks like. He has this massive scythe on one arm and asymmetric wings, and the mask, very interesting. Hard to see, of course, characters when you're fighting. Next question I posted, according to POE lore, who is the ancestor of Kira, who helped High Templar Vol seal away the beast in an effort to eliminate thaumaturgy from Rayclast? The answer is Deseret. Deseret was the Marraketh leader who allied with Vol during the Purity Rebellion against Emperor Chidus Brandis, as well as the Vistiri Legion, who had allied with Chidus. The Vistiri Legion was led by Hector, as you can see, which was one of the answers. Vol hated thaumaturgy, a very religious zealot, wanted to attack the source of all virtue gems, which was the Beast of the Mountain itself. That's why in Act 4, the beast is sealed away beyond the mines, and Deseret's spirit is in there, and we free Deseret's spirit. She was the one that helped Vol. Once we get the banner back from Vol, reanimated Vol, we fight reanimated Vol, who had been dead for many years, but he was reanimated, and of course free Deseret's spirit. Now, according to POE lore, prior to Dominus ascending to High Templar, criminals in Rayclast were executed. However, this all changed when Vania was pardoned and began working with him. Dominus realized he could instead exile criminals to the Rayclast mainland, where they would be cursed by the land's thaumaturgical powers. This obsession with the virtue gems and their powers eventually corrupted Dominus into the second form we fight in Act 3. After her pardon, Vania was renamed what by Dominus himself? Was it Hyri, Chevron, Dialla, or Piety? The answer is, of course, Piety. Piety enjoyed torturing, experimenting on men, basically picking up Malagaro and Doidri's work. Doidri was the assistant of Malagaro. She convinced Dominus to pardon her for her crimes. It's believed that she provided information on the virtue gems of Rayclast and their potential for power. After we kill Piety's human form in the Lunaris Temple, she is reanimated as a gemling by Malachi. We, of course, then fight her again, and then, undergoing this, changes her mind about the process, and she decides to work with us to take Malachi down in Act 4. Now, Dialla was also a gemling, the gemling queen, who was Chidus' favorite, but then he got bored with her and basically gave her to Malachi. And then we encounter Dialla. She's the one that calls us not a cockroach. Now, Piety, with her thaumaturgy magical abilities, when she was living, that's why she was able to transform into these demons in the Lunaris Temple. That was living Piety we fought. Now, the next question I posted, who originally sealed away Kitava in the distant past? Was it Innocence, Tukohama, Hinekora, or is it inconclusive? A lot of you chose Innocence. You actually got this wrong because there's lore discussing Hinekora being the one who sealed away Kitava. In fact, Kitava's Feast Void Axe states that it's Hinekora who sealed Kitava into a stone. The Kitava's torments describe Kitava with this insatiable hunger, and because of basically what happens is a series of events where Tukohama and the others, who are also gods, end up getting their revenge on Kitava because he's annoying to them. He eats all the food. There's this big backstory I won't get into, but a lot of this is supported, of course, by Kitava's appearance. He looks bloodied. He looks scarred. He has no eyes. However, of course, in the Templar courts, there's a lot of portrayals of Innocence originally defeating Kitava. Now, it might have been Innocence because, of course, Kitava returns after we defeat Innocence. After we defeat Innocence in the vassal of High Templar Avarius. So it could have been Innocence. As soon as we defeat Innocence, Kitava reanimates within the statue. However, if we look at Kitava's skull, which is not really seen anymore, but it used to be presented in Orioth in prior patches, and now, of course, we go directly onto the shores, the Kururi shores. But Kitava's skull has eye sockets, which does lend support into the fact that he was actually blinded in the past, and that the stories of Kitava's torments might be the ones that are true. So is it Innocence, or is it Hinekora? It's hard to say. Conflictory reports. I don't even know if the developers know for sure. It might be ambiguous on purpose. Now, the next question I posted, who is the true identity of the strangely familiar entity of the simulacrum? Is it one of the player's past characters? He does often say, I am you. Is it the god Tang Mazu? Is it the god Oro? Or is it inconclusive? This actually is conclusive. It's the god Tang Mazu. Now, very few of you got this right, but the majority did. 40%. And it's established because Chris Wilson said it's established, but there are also references. For example, he references Ralakesh as his brother, which does say that he is some kind of god, because we fight the minor god Ralakesh. And then more than likely it's because he's the trickster god, and he's going off the psychosis and mirror theme of the delirium, as he's trying to break us down mentally and physically, making us delirious. So there's a big theme there. But it is well established this is Tang Mazu. In fact, there's a div card, the Cluster Jewel div card, has a quote on top of the Cluster Jewel div card. And so that's a correlation right there for you. Now, according to POE lore, which of the following was not a member of the Karui? Is it the Barber Wakano? Utula, who we fight in Act 5, of course? Is it Hyri? Or is it Tasuni? The answer is Tasuni because the members of Highgate are Mariketh. Tasuni is the one we trade div cards for in Act 4. And there's this backstory to Hyri. She's the niece of King Kaom, trained in archery skills despite Karui women not allowed to fight. Karui men, in general as well, were not allowed by tradition to fire projectiles or use bows. It was more honorable to fight hand-to-hand. Karui made the judgment call to allow Hyri and her band of women to form an assault on the advancing General Lionai and his Gemling Legion during the invasion. Despite saving the day, Hyri never received the recognition she deserved for violating Karui tradition. Now, there's reference right here. If you have never picked up Hyri's bite, it's right there in the flavor text, right? A Karui woman's place was not the battlefield, but the hearth. Hyri changed all of that. So the next question. According to POE lore, which of the following enemies do not hail from another alternate reality? This one was a bit of a trick question. Most people realized, of course, it's not the Beyond Demons or the Scourge who are entering our dimension, or Breach, where we enter their dimension when we activate the Breach stones. It's actually the Harbingers here. It's not the Eldritch Horrors, and it's kind of based on a caveat. It's based on the fact that the Eldritch Horrors are in an alternate reality locked within the map device portals, the Atlas. The Atlas is an alternate dimension, so to speak. It's an alternate world. It's a very real world. It's a very real place. It's not, you know, it exists, but it's an alternate reality, so we use portals to access that. However, Harbingers have traveled across space and time of our own reality. Now, according to POE lore, who is Veritania the Redeemer? Who is she really? Is she a past character? Is she some kind of god? Is she some kind of guardian? Is she a past lover of Cyrus? The answer you guys got right. It's a POE player's past character, as are all of the Elder Slayers. They're the ones that defeated the Elder. And they all had their own backstories, just as the Ranger and Witch and all them do now. The Elder Slayers were driven to madness by the Atlas, despite Zana saying, "Stay sane, exile." They did not, and that's supposed to be us, back when we took down the Elder in past leagues. And so we had this close connection with Zana, and unfortunately we were driven to madness, just as her father, the Shaper, was. And it's speculated someday Zana may return, perhaps even driven to madness herself. She gave up when the Eldritch Horrors arrived and abandoned us, so that's why Kurek helps us now. Now, if you look at Veritania, she's really just an apparition. All of the Elder Slayers are. Down on the ground there, that's the real Veritania, the real body. We're fighting the apparition. Now, according to POE lore, which ruler used to hold court in the nude, surrounded by mirrors, and demanded all others do the same? For a naked man has nothing to hide. Was it Viper Napuatsi, Edziri, Caspiro, or Volker? Place your bets now. The answer, of course, is Edziri. You guys got this right. Viper Napuatsi was of the Val, but she was the general. Caspiro Varuso, that's the son of Tarkus Varuso, who founded Sarn, and the Star of the Eternal Empire. Caspiro was the second emperor, and then he was killed by some unknown darkness, which might have been the Elder, by the way, but we don't know for sure. Alano Frisia defeated the darkness and became the emperor who started the whole lineage up to Azaro, as I mentioned before. Now, Volker was also a queen, so I threw her name in there. She was a queen of the Pale Court, which, if older players who have been around for a while remember, this was a fight you could do. It was introduced in Prophecy League. It's been removed from the game. Edziri held court nude because she knew it was difficult to refuse the demands of a beautiful naked woman. Now, what did Edziri look like before she was reanimated and corrupted? She was a human, of course. There are two references in the game to my knowledge. One is the Queen Divination card. That's Edziri. You can see she wasn't in the nude at all times, just when court was held. This is what she looked like as a human. And then there is one other reference. It's a picture of Itziri looking at her past self in a mirror on the Beauty Through Death card. Her beauty did not fade. Her humanity did not survive. Very cool. Next question. The Scion was exiled to Rayclast and imprisoned by Dominus for what crime? Was it murder, robbery, treason, or adultery? Answer is murder. You guys got this right. She murdered her husband on her wedding night. There's a backstory to this. Now, somebody in the comments mentioned that the Marauder helped her kill her husband. I don't know anything about this. It might be true. There might be conflicting lore. POE lore is not super opaque, right? It's very transparent. It's hard to really... You have to do research to determine it, or really pay attention to dialogue. So I don't know. All I know is that she was definitely exiled because of murder of her husband. And here was the last one I posted. Now, this one was only posted 17 hours ago. If you haven't had a chance to vote on this, you can pause the video and go vote if you'd like. The question, who was High Templar during the reign of Titus Parandus? Was it Avarius, Dominus, Vol, or Venerius? Now, it's funny. Only 48% of you got this right. What's funny about it is, of course, that I had given the answer away in a prior poll, right? I had already said that Vol was the High Templar who led the Purity Rebellion against Titus Parandus. So I had given this away already, but, you know, just like a mother loves her retarded children, I love all my watchers, even if you guys got this wrong. Just kidding, of course. Now, Dominus and Avarius are in modern times. We fight them through this campaign. Vol, we do fight through the campaign, but a reanimated version of himself. And so he was revived outside of Highgate. And Venerius is the boss that we fight in the Cortex.